Every year, millions of Americans fly to Asia chasing a dream shaped by travel magazines, food documentaries, and perfectly curated social media feeds. Ancient temples glowing at dawn, street food markets stretching as far as you can see, cities where the ancient and the ultra-modern stand 10 feet apart and both feel completely at home. For some travelers, that dream holds. For a growing number, especially those who planned carefully, spent seriously, and flew 12 hours, the gap between the image and the reality is wider than anything they expected. Crowds so dense that temples feel like airport terminals, heat and humidity no travel blog prepared them for, scams running before the plane landed. And in a handful of cities, the specific misery of having flown further than ever before to stand in the longest queue of their lives. Today, we're ranking 15 Asian cities tourists consistently regret visiting, and for each one, where to go instead. A destination in the same region that actually delivers what the regretted city promised. Stay with me because the city at number 15 is one of the most famous in Asia, and most people who visit describe it the same way. Beautiful photographs, disappointing trip. Number 15 isn't a city in the traditional sense. It's an island, the most photographed in Southeast Asia, on the bucket list of American travelers for 30 years. The problem is that the version most people visit, and the version they imagined, are almost entirely different places. Number 15. Bali, Indonesia specifically, the southern resort corridor of Kuta and Seminyak. What Bali actually is in 2026, for the average traveler who lands and takes a taxi to the beach, is a resort strip that could be mistaken for Cancun or Phuket, except with worse traffic and a stronger smell of incense. On paper, the spiritual heart of Indonesia, a Hindu island of rice terraces, ancient temples, and a culture so distinctive it operates like a different country. In practice, 45 minutes of gridlocked traffic from those rice terraces, in a zone running on bintang beer, surf shops, and restaurants serving Indonesian-adjacent food at California prices. 6 million international visitors arrived in Bali in 2024. The infrastructure was not designed for 6 million visitors. Roads move at walking pace most of the day. Motorbikes fill every gap between cars. No functioning sidewalks on most streets. Walking between your hotel and a restaurant involves decisions about how close to the traffic you're willing to get. Kuta Beach is crowded, the water occasionally affected by runoff, and the approach lined by vendors so persistent that no functions more as an opening bid than a final answer. The scam infrastructure is well developed, taxi meters that move faster than the car, money changers with rates on the board that don't survive the actual transaction, day trips to temples that stop at every overpriced craft shop en route and spend less time at the temple than the brochure implied. The genuine temples are worth seeing: Tanah Lot at sunset, Uluwatu perched above the Indian Ocean, the terraced rice fields of Tegalalang, not in Kuta or Seminyak, 45 minutes to 2 hours away, on roads that add an hour to every distance the map suggests. The Bali of the imagination exists. It's just not where most people stay. Ubud, the cultural center in the island's forested interior, is quieter, cooler, and closer to the version of Bali that made people want to go in the first place. If you're going to Bali, go to Ubud. Have you been to Bali? Did you make it to Ubud, or did you spend most of your time fighting traffic in the south? Drop it in the comments. Your experience might save someone else a very long taxi ride. From an island where traffic makes the temples inaccessible, to a city where traffic makes the most famous monument in the world feel like an endurance test. Number 14. Agra, India. The Taj Mahal is one of the most extraordinary things human beings have ever built. The marble inlay work, the proportions, the way it changes color from white to pink to gold as the sun moves. Nothing prepares you for it. It earns every superlative it has ever received. Agra, the city built around it, earns a different set of descriptions. On paper, a historic Mughal city containing the Taj Mahal, the Agra Fort, and the ghost city of Fatehpur Sikri, a remarkable concentration of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. In practice, navigating the city around them is the most consistently regretted single city visit in all of Asia. Vehicles cannot enter the exclusion zone so visitors transfer to electric vehicles or cycle rickshaws surrounded by touts. The queue at the gate, without pre-booked tickets, can exceed 2 hours. The famous reflection photograph requires arriving before dawn and waiting. Beyond the monument, Agra's air quality is among the worst of any major Indian city, severe enough that the Supreme Court has issued repeated directives restricting industrial activity near the Taj to protect the marble. On certain days, a haze sits over the city the photographs don't show. The Agra fort is consistently undervisited relative to its quality, more intimate than the Taj, more historically layered, half the crowd. Most visitors see it only briefly because they've spent their energy at the Taj and have a train to catch. The Taj justifies the trip. The city is best treated as a one-night stay. Travelers wanting Mughal architecture without Agra's intensity should consider Jaipur the Pink City, which offers comparable historic density with better air quality and a character that rewards time rather than demanding it. From a city where one monument justifies the trip but the surroundings don't, to a beach resort where neither delivers what was promised. Number 13. Patong Beach, Phuket, Thailand. Thailand is beloved for good reason. The food is extraordinary, the temples genuinely moving, the beaches, in the right places, among the most beautiful in Southeast Asia. Patong is what happens when a beautiful place is developed for volume tourism without any limiting principle. On paper, limestone cliffs, turquoise water, and mature resort infrastructure. In practice, Patong, in peak season, is a commercial strip so dense with bars, touts, massage parlors, and beach clubs that the beach functions more as a backdrop than a place to swim. Phuket receives over 10 million international visitors a year, most passing through Patong. The beach road runs 3 kilometers, lined on both sides with establishments competing for the same customer. By early afternoon, the beach is covered in sun loungers at Ibiza prices, rows so narrow the conversation of the people next to you is not optional. The scam ecosystem is well established. Jet ski operations that charge for pre-existing damage. Tuk-tuk drivers who route you through gem shops instead of temples. The temple is closed today, line that leads to a store. Thailand's natural beauty is real and worth the journey. Patong is the wrong place to look for it. Koh Lanta, 2 hours south by ferry, offers comparable beaches with a fraction of the commercial density. Pai, in the northern mountains, is cooler, quieter, and oriented toward the landscape, from a beach resort that drifted from what made it worth visiting to a capital where the monuments are among the greatest on earth, and visiting them is more complicated than any travel guide prepares you for. Number 12. Beijing, China. Beijing contains some of the most significant human-built structures in existence. The Forbidden City is the largest palace complex ever constructed. The Great Wall is one of the genuine wonders of the world. What's worth discussing honestly is what visiting these places is actually like for an American senior in 2026. On paper, China's historic capital with 3,000 years of recorded history and more UNESCO World Heritage Sites than most countries. In practice, one of the most logistically demanding tourist destinations in Asia, in ways most first-time visitors significantly underestimate. The Forbidden City receives 17 million visitors a year. The main axis on a busy summer day is a conveyor belt of bodies, phones raised. Appreciating the palace requires moving slowly, pausing, looking difficult when the crowd does the moving for you. Mutianyu, the most visitor-friendly section of the Great Wall, has a cable car and far smaller crowds than Badaling. Getting there requires a tour, a private car, or public transport that takes most of a morning. Worth it. Requires planning most visitors don't build in. The language barrier is more significant than in Tokyo, Seoul, or Singapore. Payment systems have shifted almost entirely to mobile platforms, requiring a Chinese mobile number and bank account, a genuine challenge for visitors who don't address this before arrival. Spend no more than 3 days, book everything in advance, treat it as a monument tour. Travelers wanting an immersive Chinese city experience with lower logistical friction should consider Xi'an, which has its own World Heritage Site in the Terracotta Warriors, and a city atmosphere that rewards wandering in a way Beijing's tourist zone does not. From a capital where monuments justify the effort, to a town so organized around a single attraction, it has almost ceased to exist as a place in its own right. Number 11. Siem Reap, Cambodia. Angkor Wat is the largest religious monument ever built. The complex covers 400 square kilometers and includes Bayon, Ta Prohm, Bante Shre, and dozens of other structures. Standing at the main reflecting pool at sunrise is the kind of experience people describe for the rest of their lives. Siem Reap, the town that grew up to serve the temples, is a different matter. On paper, a charming Cambodian town with colonial French architecture and river life. In practice, so comprehensively rebuilt around tourist infrastructure that its original character has been almost entirely replaced by a hospitality layer that exists purely to process visitor flow. Pub Street is exactly what the name implies, bars running on bucket cocktails, oriented entirely toward visitors who arrived from the temples and want a beer. Not unpleasant. Also not Cambodia. The reflection photograph requires arriving before 5 in the morning and holding position in the dark. The complex is largely unshaded and reaches 35 degrees Celsius by mid-morning in peak season. Many structures involve steep steps with no railing. Angkor is irreplaceable. Stay 3 days, hire a guide for at least the first, start every visit before 7. Travelers wanting Cambodia beyond the tourist corridor should add 2 days in Phnom Penh, the only place where the country's history makes full sense. From a town that exists to serve its temples, to one of the greatest cities on earth, and the specific ways it disappoints travelers who arrive unprepared. Number 10. Tokyo, Japan. Tokyo is one of the finest cities in the world. The food alone justifies the flight. The cleanliness, efficiency, depth of its neighborhoods, the way it manages to be simultaneously futuristic and deeply traditional, none of this is exaggerated. What we're talking about is the specific experience of visiting during cherry blossom season, Golden Week, or autumn foliage peak, without advance planning. During those windows, hotel prices double, famous parks become standing room events, and the city's legendary efficiency gets strained. Cherry blossom season late March to early April draws millions to the same parks simultaneously. A hotel room costing 12,000 yen off-peak can reach 40 or 50,000 yen during Bloom Week. Tokyo rewards preparation more than any other city on this list, and is simultaneously the city most visitors arrive least prepared for. Avoid cherry blossom peak and Golden Week, unless you book 6 months ahead. Visit in November. Autumn foliage is as beautiful as cherry blossom. Crowds are thinner, prices significantly more reasonable. Kyoto, 2 hours by bullet train, offers a more immediately accessible version of Japan. From a city that rewards preparation to one that rewards a very specific kind of traveler and genuinely challenges everyone else. Number 9. Mumbai, India. Mumbai is the most intense city in Asia for Western travelers. Some visitors describe it as the most alive, energetic, and overwhelming experience of their lives, and mean all three as a compliment. Senior travelers consistently report the gap between what they expected and what they encountered was wider here than anywhere else in Asia. On paper, India's financial and cultural capital extraordinary contrasts, colonial architecture, Bollywood glamour, and the seafront of Marine Drive. In practice, 21 million people at a density and pace genuinely unlike anything most Western travelers have previously encountered, combined with heat and humidity that add physical demand to every activity. The gateway of India is surrounded at almost every hour by vendors, photographers, and boat operators in numbers that make a contemplative moment impossible. The harbor is beautiful. Standing at the arch is best described as active management rather than sightseeing. Traffic operates by rules that are more suggestions than laws. A 3-kilometer journey can take 45 minutes. In April and May, temperatures combined with humidity create conditions senior travelers with cardiovascular concerns should assess carefully. Worth visiting for one specific experience, a night at the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel facing the gateway, followed by an early morning walk along Marine Drive before the heat builds. Everything else requires a tolerance for intensity that not every traveler has. Goa, 2 hours south by plane, offers colonial Portuguese architecture, beautiful beaches, and a pace the same travelers find far more accommodating. From intensity to a city whose problem is a different kind of shift, one that has changed the character of a place many travelers knew well. Number 8. Hong Kong. Travelers who visited before 2019 and those visiting in 2026 are visiting different versions of the same city. The skyline is still extraordinary. Victoria Harbor at night is still one of the great urban views on Earth. The food is still world-class. What has changed is harder to describe and easier to feel. On paper, Asia's most sophisticated international city, a financial hub with Western legal heritage, extraordinary food culture, and one of the world's most dramatic harbor settings. The social atmosphere has shifted in ways that affect the experience, particularly for travelers sensitive to the texture of a place. The Nathan Road corridor operates with a persistent low-level pressure that experienced travelers manage and first-timers find tiring. Copy watches, tailor touts, special rate offers from the moment you exit the MT are generally harmless, but friction that compounds over several days. The traditional Hong Kong many travelers expect neon-lit wet markets, dim sum parlors operating since the 1960s. Street-level hawker culture is in significant retreat. What remains is genuine and worth seeking, but requires more effort than a first-time visitor can deploy in 5 days. Still earns its visit for the harbor, the peak, and 2 meals, dim sum in the morning, and roasted goose from one of the remaining Cantonese specialists in the evening. Travelers wanting Hong Kong's energy at its peak will find something closer in Singapore, which retains the cosmopolitan confidence, food culture, and seamless infrastructure that Hong Kong pioneered. 8 cities. 8 different ways Asia can disappoint when reality collides with the dream. Every one of them famous for a reason. The problem is never the place itself. The problem is mass tourism built for volume, optimized for throughput, not for experience. What if you could still get the beauty, the food, the history, and the culture without the crowds, the scams, and the queues? The next 7 cities show exactly that. Not almost as good. What you actually came for. Number 7. Penang, Malaysia, specifically Georgetown. A UNESCO World Heritage City where Chinese shophouses, Indian temples, Malay mosques, and British colonial buildings occupy the same blocks. Genuinely unusual, genuinely fascinating. The food culture is considered by many serious food travelers to be the finest street food scene in Southeast Asia, not by anyone who has eaten at a Georgetown hawker center and tried to decide between char kway teow and Assam laksa. The historic center is walkable. The famous street art murals incorporating iron rod sculptures extending from the walls into the street makes walking the lanes feel like a treasure hunt. English is widely spoken. Distances are manageable on foot or by grab. The Penang Hill funicular offers cooler air and views across the Penang Strait that justify the trip on their own. Penang delivers food culture, architectural heritage, human scale, and easy logistics in a combination almost no more famous destination matches. Number 6. Chiang Mai, Thailand. In a valley surrounded by forested mountains, at an elevation giving it a climate meaningfully different from Bangkok or the southern beaches, the cool season, November through February, produces mornings in the low 20s with clear skies, where the majority of long-term Western expats in Thailand have chosen to live. The old city is enclosed by a square moat and ancient walls containing over 30 working Wats. Not tourist productions working religious spaces. Monks cross the lanes in saffron robes in the early morning. The sound of chanting from Wat Chedi Luang at dusk is one of the genuinely moving experiences of Southeast Asian travel. The Saturday and Sunday night markets are among the finest in Asia. Genuinely local craft production at prices not yet calibrated to international expectations. The medical infrastructure is the best in northern Thailand. English-speaking services, reliable transport, restaurants across every cuisine and price point. Walkable within the moat, navigable beyond by grab at rates that make London taxi fares look like a different planet. Cultural depth, comfortable climate, excellent medical infrastructure, pricing that remains generous, a destination many return to for months at a time. Number 5. Kyoto, Japan. If Tokyo shows you what Japan has become, Kyoto shows you what Japan has always been: the imperial capital for over 1,000 years. A city that chose to preserve rather than rebuild, with more designated national treasures than any other prefecture in the country. Fushimi Inari is crowded at the base and genuinely empty at the summit, 2 hours up a forested hill most visitors don't attempt. The view gates continuing through cedar forest in every direction is the photograph nobody shows you, because nobody who takes it can explain what it felt like to be there. The bamboo grove at Arashiyama, early morning, before the tours arrive, is one of the most serene experiences in any Asian city. By 9, the path is crowded. By 7, you may have a section to yourself. The Higashiyama district stone-paved lanes running from Kiyomizudera to Yasaka Shrine is a preserved Edo period street scene requiring no historical imagination. Walking it in late afternoon, when day trippers have gone and the light turns the lanes gold, is the version of Japan most visitors came looking for. The ryokan experience: tatami rooms, futon bedding, kaiseki dinner, communal baths is most accessible in Kyoto, and one of the most distinctive nights in global travel. November for autumn foliage, June for hydrangeas and smaller crowds, late February for plum blossoms. In any of those windows, Kyoto has no competition in Asia. Number 4. Luang Prabang, Laos. A UNESCO World Heritage City on the confluence of the Mekong and Nam Khan rivers. 34 Buddhist temples, a French colonial downtown of remarkable elegance, and a scale so human the entire town is walkable in a morning. Something almost impossible to find in contemporary Asia, a historic city not yet overwhelmed by its own fame. The almsgiving ceremony Takbat happens every morning at dawn. Monks process through the main street in saffron robes, while local residents kneel to offer sticky rice, an exchange continuing without interruption for centuries. Not a performance. In the early morning light, with mist still hanging over the Mekong, one of the genuinely moving experiences of Southeast Asian travel. Fusi Hill is climbable in 20 minutes, with a summit view over the entire UNESCO Zone Red Temple rooftops, 2 rivers, the mountains of northern Laos in every direction. The Guangxi waterfalls, 30 kilometers from town, produce turquoise pools beneath jungle canopy, available for swimming in the right season. A mineral turquoise that seems too vivid to be natural and is completely real. The night market sells Hmong and Lao textiles, silk scarves, and silverwork at prices reflecting cost of production rather than tourist demand. The morning sandwich stalls, shaped by French colonial baguette tradition, are among the finest cheap meals in Asia, perhaps 5 to 10 years before the discovery curve catches up. Visiting now is one of the better travel decisions available to a senior traveler. Number 3. Hoi An, Vietnam. Small. The ancient town, a UNESCO-listed trading port, is compact enough to walk in an hour, if you walk without stopping. Nobody walks without stopping. The buildings are too beautiful, the lanes too atmospheric, the food too good. At night, when paper lanterns lining every eave are lit and the Thu Bon River reflects the color back across the water, Hoi An produces one of the finest streetscapes in Asia. The core is closed to motorized traffic. The evening is genuinely quiet. The sound of the river, music from restaurants, the peace of a place not competing with itself. The tailoring culture has no equivalent in Southeast Asia. Custom garments in 24 to 48 hours, at prices extraordinary by Western standards. Clothing made to individual measurements by craftspeople who have been doing this for generations. Khao lo made with water from ancient cham wells is available only here. White rose dumplings, banh mi from the original establishments, fresh herbs used with an abundance that turns every meal into something that smells like a garden. The beaches at An Bang, 4 kilometers by bicycle, are wide, clean, and backed by relaxed beach bars not yet developed into resort infrastructure. The closest thing to a universally positive travel experience in Southeast Asia, scale and character that absorb visitors without losing themselves, the rarest quality any destination can have. Number 2. Singapore. A reputation problem. Too clean, too efficient, too expensive, no soul. From people who generally haven't been there, or who went expecting Southeast Asian chaos. What they found is a city that decided to do everything at the highest possible standard and largely succeeded. The food culture first. More Michelin-starred hawker stalls than any city in the world. The guide extended its criteria to include street food because Singapore's hawker centers demanded it. A plate of Hainanese chicken rice from Tian Tian at Maxwell Food Center costs $4 and has more technical precision than most restaurant meals in Western cities at 10 times the price. The Gardens by the Bay has no equivalent anywhere. The Flower Dome is the world's largest glass greenhouse. The Cloud Forest has a 60-meter indoor mountain with a waterfall. The Super Tree Grove at night is one of those things photographs do not prepare you for. The easiest city in Asia to navigate, English everywhere. The MRT is clean, air-conditioned, with elevator access at every station. Healthcare among the finest in Asia. Streets safe at any hour. Hotels are expensive. Everything else, food, transport, attractions, is significantly cheaper than the equivalent in London, New York, or Sydney. Delivers what it promises with a consistency no other major city in the region matches. For senior travelers who want Asia at the highest comfort level, with the lowest logistical friction, without competition. One city left. Almost nobody outside Japan has heard of it, but it delivers the Japan everyone is going to Kyoto looking for, without the crowds. Number 1. Kanazawa, Japan. If you've never heard of Kanazawa, you're in the majority. That is exactly what makes it the finest city on this list. 2.5 hours from Tokyo by Shinkansen. Never bombed during World War II, the Edo period architecture of its geisha districts, samurai quarters, and merchant lanes survived intact in a way almost no other Japanese city can claim. Walking through the Higashi-Chaya district in the early morning wooden lattice-fronted tea houses, persimmon trees over garden walls, the sound of a shamisen from somewhere inside is the Japan every first-time visitor to Kyoto hopes to find and increasingly struggles to reach. Kenrokuen is rated among the 3 most beautiful landscape gardens in Japan, large enough to lose a crowd. In November, when the maple canopy turns red and gold, one of the most beautiful things available to a traveler in Asia. In February, when gardeners install yukitsuri rope structures supporting pine branches against heavy snow, the garden looks like a Japanese woodblock print in 3 dimensions. The finest regional Japanese cuisine outside Kyoto. Snow crab, yellowtail, and firefly squid from the Sea of Japan, prepared in a culinary tradition developing since the 17th century. The Omicho market operating continuously since the Edo period sells produce that makes the famous Tsukiji outer market feel like a comparison exercise. The Nagamachi Samurai District. Earthen walls, water channels, preserved residences between the Castle Park and the Sai River. The Nomura House contains a garden considered one of the most beautiful small gardens in Japan, receiving a fraction of the visitors of comparable sites in Kyoto. What Kanazawa offers is the rarest thing in modern Asian travel, the genuine experience, without the tourism layer placed between most visitors and what they actually came to find. The garden with space to stop and look, the geisha district in the early morning with no one else on the lane, the fish market as a market, not a performance of itself. That is the truth this list keeps arriving at. The most famous destination and the best destination are rarely the same city. The gap between the one that disappoints and the one that delivers is almost never a difference in beauty, history, food, or culture. It's a difference in the ratio of visitors to the experience and whether what you came for has survived contact with the number of people who came looking for the same thing. Asia still has places where that ratio is right. The list above is where they are. 15 Asian cities, the ones that consistently disappoint, and the alternatives that consistently deliver. The problem is almost never the destination. The Taj Mahal, the temples of Angkor, the harbor of Hong Kong. None of them are frauds. What they've become is the victim of the distance between what they are and what millions of people simultaneously expect, and no place survives that gap without losing something. The alternatives share one quality. They're still themselves. They haven't been fully processed by the tourism machine. Visiting them, while that's still true, is the difference between a trip you recount as the most memorable of your life and one you describe, with a slight wince, as a learning experience. Which of these cities have you visited? Did the reality match what you expected? And if you've found somewhere in Asia that belongs on the alternatives list, put it in the comments. Your recommendation might be exactly what someone planning their next trip needs. If this was useful, please like and subscribe, because the best city in Asia isn't the one on the cover of every magazine. It's the one that fits the way you actually travel.